Is dinner ready yet? As I was preparing dinner, I heard my husband John's voice. Okay, I'm on it. John seemed to be relaxing in the living room, watching TV. Hey, bring me some tea? Sure thing. So, upon his request, I turned off the stove and made some tea. It's a scene that hasn't changed over the years. But, I've started to question this kind of life. My name is Carol. I'm 50 years old, in my 27th year of marriage. John is 4 years older than me, a former boss at work. At his request, I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker when we got married. As an office clerk, I was used to being assigned all miscellaneous tasks. So John, my former boss, seemed to take it for granted that he would make me do things at home. We have a son and a daughter. Our son Alex works for an IT company, and our daughter Emily has taken a job with a food company. Although they live close by, both have moved out, and with the parenting phase winding down, I've started to think about doing something new. Encouraged by Emily, I started attending cooking classes. However, I felt awkward asking John to pay for them, which led me to take a part-time job as an office clerk at a supermarket. Despite the gap in my employment and the many changes, I found it exciting to take on new challenges. Thanks to Alex, who had always been interested in computers and taught me how to use them, I was able to handle the computer requirements of modern office work. I'm grateful to Alex. Even though it was part-time, earning my own money after such a long time made me feel validated as an individual. I used that money to pay for the cooking classes. Having lived in a closed-off world, I suddenly found my social circle expanding. I enjoyed improving my cooking skills, but interacting with people of various ages was especially delightful to me. I'm going to take a shower now. After dinner, as I was doing the dishes, John called out from the living room. It's ready for you. Without saying anything, John got up and headed to the bathroom. I am the one who sets up the bathroom and prepares John's change of clothes. It wasn't necessarily painful, but being taken for granted like that did make me feel sad. Even when I was sick, John wouldn't do anything. He would just ask about his meals and clothes. Usually, the kids would take care of me and scold John, but it never seemed to affect him. Even though this lifestyle has continued for years, starting part-time work began to change my mindset. When I told John that I wanted to take a cooking class, he made it a condition that I would not neglect my chores. I didn't have a particular complaint about that. However, after just one session, he commented, "Your cooking hasn't improved at all. If one session could make that much difference, it would be a miracle." Then I figured out John probably didn't like it when I start something. I somehow understood that he wanted to look down on me as a housewife who couldn't do anything. Realizing that, I started to wonder if I could continue to live with John, with whom my only interactions are about meals, baths, and tea. Now that the kids have moved out, it's just John and me in this house. Despite there being fewer people, it strangely feels more suffocating. Hey. While I was in the kitchen, John called out to me. It's been decades since he last called me by my name. When I looked up, John was pointing to a corner of the room. The cleaning isn't up to par. If you're going to neglect your duties because you're too busy playing around, I don't mind if you get out. John has often said that it was fine for me to get out, a sentiment he's expressed for years. Back when I was busy raising our children and not working, the thought of getting out never crossed my mind. But now, things are different. For the first time, I spoke up in response. The vacuum cleaner is right there. If it bothers you, why don't you clean it up yourself? Then, John suddenly started to get angry. What are you talking to the head of a household when you're just my wife? Talk is over. Saying that, he left the living room. I sighed. After a while, I heard the sound of the front door opening, so it seemed he went out. Wife or head of the household, too old-fashioned if I think about it. He probably never expected me to talk back. After some time, John came back. Then he suddenly thrust me a few pieces of paper he had in his hand. If I file this with the court, you're getting out of here. John gave me divorce petition forms. And what's more, his part was already filled out meticulously. A divorce just because I talked back once? But part of me thought, if that's what he wants, maybe that's for the best. Still, wanting to cool down, I said, please let me think about it, took those papers, and retreated to the bedroom where John wasn't. Before I knew it, it was already evening as I pondered what to do. As I was considering just going to bed for the night, I heard John's voice, "Hey, dinner is not ready yet? What does it mean to demand that the person you are divorcing prepare dinner for you?" John went out of his way to open the bedroom door to check on me. I sighed. "If we get divorced, you won't be able to have dinner, will you?" Then John said, "Yeah, I guess it's inconvenient without you around. Since I'm letting you live here, hurry up and prepare dinner." Despite his words irking me, I knew if I left it be, he'd just keep asking about dinner. So I warmed up some prepared dishes in the microwave and served them to John. The next day, John returned home in an unusually good mood. As I took his bag and jacket, I noticed a smell I wasn't familiar with. Perhaps it was a woman's perfume. But I chose not to pursue it. If this was an affair, I decided to gather evidence and then consider divorce. I had never thought to investigate John before, even though there had been suspicious signs. Then, I quickly found evidence of his affair in emails and photos. A month later, things took a dramatic turn. As I returned from my cooking class, the house phone rang incessantly. It was the police, saying John had been in an accident and was taken to the hospital. He was supposed to be at work today, but the location of the accident was in a completely different direction. Despite suspecting a scam, I hurried to the hospital as instructed. Just to be safe, I also contacted Alex and Emily, and they agreed to come as well. When we arrived at the hospital and saw him, it was indeed John. According to the police, a woman in the passenger seat had died in the accident. It wasn't a scam, but hearing from the police that there was a woman with him made me indifferent about John's condition. Wasn't he supposed to be at work? How come he was in that place, and with another woman? I just nodded to Emily's words. The kids quickly grasped that John had been having an affair. Either way, with John unconscious, there was nothing to be done. There was a possibility he might never regain consciousness, and even if he did, he might be suffering from paralysis from the waist down. Other than that, we would have to wait and see when he woke up. John woke up 3 days later. When I received the call and went to the hospital, my in-laws were there. I had informed John's parents when he was taken to the hospital. However, not feeling like waiting for them, I hadn't met with John's parents, who took a while to arrive at the hospital. The in-laws seemed to have arrived after we left. While John was unconscious, the in-laws stayed by his side. As soon as she saw me, my mother-in-law, Lisa, started yelling, "Carol, where have you been?" It seemed like she hadn't liked me since I married John. We rarely see each other since we live far apart, but she always complains whenever we meet. Well, this time, I expected to be scolded for being a wife who left her unconscious husband behind. "You're a terrible wife for not being by his side while your husband was fighting for his life." My father-in-law, George, joined in scolding me. I couldn't help but say, "I guess so. I agree." Normally, a wife would stay by her husband's side in such a situation. But I had given up that role. As the in-laws stared at me with wide eyes, John spoke up. "It seems I'll be hospitalized for a while, so I'll need you to prepare my clothes and towels. You can see me at a fixed time every day." He said it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. As I stayed silent, pondering where to start, John said, "A wife should serve her husband for life, right?" Then, Lisa chimed in. "Poor thing, being paralyzed. From now on, Carol has to take care of him devotedly." John nodded and said, "That's right. You're my wife, so it's only to be expected." Hearing that, I said with a serious face, "What are you talking about?" "It's impossible because we're strangers now." "What?" John and the in-laws looked at me. "That's because I'm not your wife anymore. Besides, you have quite the nerve, cheating and getting caught in an accident. You told me you were working, but in reality, you took a day off for a trip with your mistress? Unbelievable." I wasn't sure how much the in-laws knew, but they must have noticed the situation now that I explained it. Then, George said something outrageous. "What's the big deal about 1 or 2 affairs? Yeah, having such an attractive husband should make you proud." It was Lisa who made the off-target remark. Just then, the door to the hospital room swung open. "Grandma and Grandpa, what you're saying is awful." It was Emily who said that. Alex was behind her. It seemed they had heard everything. Now all the players were here. I began to tell everything. Your affair started 3 years ago with the wife of a company executive, I heard. You hit it off with her when you visited their house to congratulate him on his promotion to executive. How dare you make a move on the wife of an executive? The woman who died in the accident was John's mistress. After being questioned by the police and also in communication with the woman's husband, I learned specific information. John's face visibly paled. Don't you think it's strange to have a car accident with his mistress in the car and not find out anything? I've been aware of it for a long time, though, so I have all the evidence I need. Well, I'm off to discuss the future with my lawyer, so I'll leave now. John, now visibly pale, started to panic. Wait, what do you mean by lawyer? Exactly what it sounds like. I'll be claiming compensation for the affair and your emotional abuse. What am I supposed to do now? John always worried only about himself. I stopped worrying about John. For too long, I've been treated like a maid by John, whose only concerns were meals, baths, and tea. After the accident during his affair, I had finally had enough. Fortunately, I had already received the divorce petition forms filled out by John. So, without hesitation, I headed to the court and submitted them. That is why we are in divorce proceedings, and I will not do anything to take care of you in the future. Declaring this, Alex and Emily nodded in agreement. I'm glad you've decided to divorce Dad, said Alex. With that, the conversation ended. As I was about to leave the hospital room, leaving John looking pale, Lisa hurriedly blocked my way. There's no way such a divorce will be approved. You are to take care of him for life. Do you understand? Lisa yelled, so I involuntarily responded with a serious face, no, I don't. Then what is he supposed to do? He can't even walk. What if he needs to take a bath or use the toilet? Who is going to take care of him? You have no brains except to take care of him. So don't whine and just do it. I kept a straight face and said, why don't you do all of that? And she fell silent, shaking her head. So I said, please stop trying to push onto me the things you don't want to do. Then I added, good luck taking care of your son with your husband. George, who had been acting as if he was out of the loop, looked bewildered. The rest is none of my concern. As you said, I'll be leaving that house. I left the hospital room with my children. I hardly ever talked back before, but today I was able to say what I wanted. Feeling refreshed, I returned home to prepare for moving. Let's live together, Emily suggested, so I moved in with her. I returned to my part-time job after a break and resumed attending cooking classes. Wherever I went, people said, Carol, you seem brighter than before. It makes sense since I was acting like an unpaid maid before, it's natural to become somber. Now, with a broader outlook and more friends, I live every day joyfully. As promised, I sued John for damages due to his affair and emotional abuse, and got a fair share of the property. Since the affair was discovered by the executive, John's mistress's husband, he also sued for compensation. John, now paralyzed from the waist down, was planning to continue working at the company he had been with. But the affair with the executive's wife and the accident made it uncomfortable for him, so he chose to resign. Carol, please come back. John's desperate call came through. Without me saying anything, John started to talk. Mom and Dad have been pushing my care onto each other, and Mom left yesterday. We're over. He said this in a pitiful voice, so I replied, do you really think I would come back to that? I did marry you, but the feeling of wanting to serve you for life has long been gone. You managed to live just by saying meals, baths, tea. Maybe things would have been different if you had at least said thank you, but you took it for granted. You might think you can't do anything now because you're disabled, but you've always been someone who couldn't do anything by yourself. John was speechless over the phone. Also, being called by my name for the first time in decades doesn't make me happy at all. I've received plenty from the property division and compensation, so I have no need for you anymore. If you keep contacting me persistently, I'll consult the police. He might have really thought I would come back, but I'm already independent. Since my part-time job salary wasn't enough, I was looking for something new when I learned that my cooking class instructor was looking for a partner. The instructor, being elderly, didn't understand computers, and the class recruitment was done on paper, with handwritten student management. I immediately volunteered to help, using the internet to recruit students and post about the cooking class. All thanks to Alex teaching me about computers. Then, Alex contacted me. Dad called the other day, but I told him I can't trust him, won't help him, nor lend him money. Oh, and I'm not inviting Dad to the wedding. Just so you know. Alex, who had grown up before I knew it, is getting married in 2 months. He sometimes comes to me, hoping not to become like his father, asking to learn cooking. Emily watches him with a smirk, saying, "Big brother, you're here again? We've always been like this." Our family gatherings no longer include John. It seems John was only there to order me around, causing me trouble. Without John, I've been able to lead a fulfilling life, and I am content.